everybody, this is the Wikstrand. So, Wes Anderson. I really like him as a filmmaker and some of his movies are absolutely amazing. Do you know what is also amazing? Stop motion animation. It is my favorite form of animation. Combine the two, what do you get? You just might get one of the single greatest movies from the late 2000s. And how good is it? That's what we're gonna find out today. So join me as we take a look at one of my favorite Wes Anderson movies of all time, together with Isle of Dogs and the Grand Budapest Hotel. It's actually a really tight struggle at the top. Who is actually the best one? Isle of Dogs or this? Isle of Dogs might be a little bit more, out there and might have the slightly more complex story. This one has the better characters and has the better story. So it's a toss-up. I might have to rewatch Isle of Dogs if I'm going to have to settle this one once and for all. But let's find out what happens in this movie. This is my review of Fantastic Mr. Fox. So Mr. Fox, played by George Clooney, tells Mrs. Fox, voiced by Meryl Streep, that his thieving days are over after a chicken stealing operation that went a little bit awry, and they almost got killed. And because a baby is on the way, he has sworn off all forms of stealing chicken and stuff like that, and they have settled down. And the fact is that Mr. Fox is actually going through a little bit of a Fox-related midlife crisis, because he misses the good old days, and he just writes this column for the Gazette, who people may or may not read. And in an effort to try to change things up a little bit, he buys them a new house. And what's on the precipice of this new house? Well, it is the three biggest farmers in the area, and their business in geese and ducks and chicken and apple and cider and other things that Fox may want to steal is just too much of a temptation for him, and he decides to, behind the back of Mrs. Fox, together with an opossum, Kylie, they're going to put their bandit hats back on and go on another final heist to, relive the good old days, or whatever it is. Let's see what happens, because when he, do these raids, he gets a couple of mortal enemies in the shape of these three farmers. Who is going to come up on top in this epic battle? That is essentially what this movie is. I will say this. This is a movie that you can identify as a Wes Anderson movie almost from frame one. The quirky humor, the layout, the rules, the title cards, the soundtrack. It is a Wes Anderson movie through and through. It just happens to be a stop-motion animated movie based on a book by Roald Dahl. I don't know if this is a faithful adaptation or not when it comes to the book. I haven't read it, but I'm kind of tempted to read it now that I've seen this movie. The characters are so likable, and as I said, this is my favorite form of animation, because they are able to make these characters feel so real, and especially during the more intimate and quiet moments, you really get the sense that you get exactly what these characters are going through at this specific moment. Now, that might be because they have such a fantastic list of great voice actors. George Clooney is great, Meryl Streep is great, and Jason Schwartzman as the son Ash, who gets really insecure when Christophers comes and visits them, and it turns out that he's good at basically, well, everything, and he gets a little mean and becomes a bit of a bully and stuff like that. There are just so many great characters in this movie. The only character I actually didn't like that much was actually the opossum Kyle. He's not a bad character in a, lame, uninteresting animated movie. He would probably have been the most interesting thing in the entire movie. Cough, wish, cough. But here he just feels a little bit like He's taking up too much time and too much space, and you could have had more interesting and more compelling characters, you know, taking his spot. For instance, the security rat played by Willem Dafoe. You really get the feeling that, you know, him and Fox used to have some kind of, you know, a thing back in the days. You could have easily turned that into a very, very cool and absolutely hilarious, you know, flashback, you know, when they used to be a team and then they had a fallout or anything like that. It doesn't have to make sense, but you're getting the feel that you could have done it. Also, I could have gone for even more whack-bat related sequences, because not only were those sequences absolutely hilarious, we would have also gotten more of the coach played by Owen Wilson. I loved him so much. More whack-bat, please. And also Bill Murray as the Badger, the attorney. He was absolute comedy gold, and he was also a little bit sidelined. I thought we could have used more Badger. But anyway, there is just so much creativity in this movie. There is just so much joy to this movie. All the actors seem to enjoy themselves so much, and all these sequences have so much life to themselves, and some of the jokes are so clever, and, you know, this dry, witty humor and the very, very sharp dialogue is just my type of a movie. Add to that we have lots of hilarious small little references and slightly adult jokes that doesn't feel, you know, shoehorned in. Fantastic Mr. Fox is a family-friendly movie that doesn't look down upon its audience and doesn't try to dumb itself down because they think that the kids are stupid and cannot follow this, you know, story. This is probably the purest definition of a family-friendly movie that I can think of, that the entire family actually can see, and everybody can get something out of this, because there are just so many relatable moments in this movie, and there are just so many great bits. And one of the small little problems I do also have with this movie is that the ending is not great. It's an okay ending, but after a masterpiece of a movie, you have what I would consider a relatively good ending. It is a little bit, oh, you were so close. But considering that that is my only complaints about this entire movie. Some characters should have had more screen time, and the ending wasn't as good as the rest of the movie. So you probably understand, I think this movie is absolutely great. The pace is great, the creativity is fantastic, the soundtrack is amazing, and if you like, you know, Wes Anderson's peculiar way of making movies, this should be right up your alley if you've never seen this movie. It is one of my favorite animated movies of all time. It is by far one of my favorite stop-motion animated movies of all time. And it is just a movie that I can watch over and over again, and I can always find something new and something entertaining and some bit that I hadn't thought about. And just the way this movie looks, and just the way this movie feels, and just how they have, you know, solved a couple of things just make me so happy when I watch it, because it just feels like this great bundle of joy, and it is just such an uncomplicated little story that we're having, to the point where I actually think that this movie really doesn't require a plot. In fact, I could go so far to say that the plot almost kind of hurt this movie, because we just want to, you know, be with these characters, playing whack-bats, having discussions at the dinner tables. They're actually more compelling than the heist sequences, and I love heist movies. But I guess you have to have a plot, and the plot is good, and they execute it absolutely amazing, and it looks fantastic. It's just that I just wish we could have had a slightly better ending. Maybe it's just me, I don't know. Fantastic Mr. Fox is really fantastic when you're thinking about it. This is everything I want from an animated comedy, and I give this movie 93 points. A fantastic list of voice actors in a movie where they have compelling characters, we have a great story, we have a decent ending, and everything else is just absolutely amazing. And this is a movie that, if you've never seen it, I really recommend it. You can watch it over and over again, it never gets old. It is clearly one of Wes Anderson's absolutely best movies he has ever done. And that is saying something. So which one is your favorite when it comes to Wes Anderson's movies? Comment below and I'll see you next time from, well, so-and-so reviewing, well, such and such. Thank you for watching. Thank you very much.